So what do social learning, family rallying, and this big pivot all have in common? I'm so excited today to bring you today on Friday a special guest with us, Elizabeth Sautter. She is a speech-language pathologist. She's an entrepreneur, a supermom, an author of the book and brand new course, Make Social Learning Stick. You're going to find that Elizabeth is an expert in social and emotional learning, but she's also an expert in something I like to call the pivot. So we're going to talk about that, about what happens maybe when social learning isn't happening appropriately or even at all, or maybe even what social learning is. So if you're watching on the recording or on the replay, welcome to all of you. Make sure you leave your questions and comments, and we'll be back to answer questions, respond to your comments. Give us some love on here. It helps us to engage in a community. And welcome to those of you who are joining us on Instagram. You are in the cheap seats, unfortunately. So you're not going to be able to see and experience all of the awesomeness from Elizabeth Sautter today. So come join us over here on Facebook at 3 Life Essentials so that you can grab all of that. And today, since this is Free Friday, we're going to be free from social awkwardness, free from the unknown, free from fear, free to be social. Yes, free to pivot, free to be mindful, because this is Free Friday. So here's what we're going to talk about before we dive in. And actually, I have a gift just for you. And let me see if I can put it down here so that you guys can see that. I have a gift for those of you who are joining me. If you share the word social learning, all one word, with me, I'll share with you the full written guide from today. And I'll also share with you a fun goodie that Elizabeth has. It's her Mindfulness May calendar, and for you and your family. And I've already been reading through that, and I'm excited today to do what's on day 15. So because I need to do this. So I'm so glad for you guys for joining me today. And so before I bring Elizabeth on, what are the questions that you have for Elizabeth around this topic of social and emotional learning? If we get time, we're going to answer questions. If not, you're going to want to leave them in the comments so that we can come back and answer any of those questions that you have. Go ahead and sprinkle this among your people. Don't keep this info to yourself. Today, I even have a bonus gift for you, for those of you who choose to do that. So my name is Amy Miller. If you're new to joining with us today, I'm a wellness advocate and a business coach that helps fellow SLPs and special needs professionals to make a bigger impact in the lives of their patients, to set their business apart from the others, and to provide patients with solutions that address issues rather than just putting Band-Aids on problems. And we do this using our signature Spark method via our growth mindset coaching. But this is Free Friday. This is our weekly series to experience life more fully, more abundantly. Bonus if we can do this naturally too. So let me bring Elizabeth on, because I'm so excited for you guys to for her to share her goodness with you. Let's see if I can bring her on here. Let's see. Hold on just a minute here. Let me hide this. Technology. Hi, good morning, Elizabeth. How are you?
Hi, Amy. Hi, everyone.
Hi, so glad to see you. Now, you may not realize this, but May is Better Hearing and Speech Month. Now, Elizabeth and I know this very well, but so this is one of the reasons that we're highlighting this topic for the rest of the month. And I just want to give you a quick stat before Elizabeth gets going, because I think it will help bring some awareness to why we're even talking about this and why we're bringing some of these things to the forefront. So you may not realize this, but did you know that 1 out of 12 children ages 3 to 17 have a disorder related to voice, speech, language, or swallowing? And that communication disorder can involve a child's voice that's too weak or hoarse or strained, or how a child speaks, or problems making speech sounds, or stuttering problems, or problems how a child learns or understands words or sentences, or even a swallowing disorder means that a child has trouble swallowing foods or liquids for at least 1 week. So, and some of these challenges also includes how a child's breathing or eating or even sleeping at night. And only a little over half of those children have received treatment in the last 12 months. So I want to hear feedback from all of you. Oh, great. Okay, we've got some joining. Christy says hello from Linwood, Washington. Yay, good to see you. Nancy said, what was that word? I'm not sure. Which word? I'm not sure. Tell me again, Nancy. Oh, social. Yes, social learning. Yes. Yes. So we're going to be talking about those things today. Yes, Nancy, I know you're gonna love this goodness today. This is right up your alley. So what comes to your mind when you think of some of those statistics? Tell me below, and talk about some of these things. Now, Elizabeth, this may be new to you since you're new here on Free Friday, but we love to learn out loud here on Free Friday. So we use the hashtag Free Friday whenever we have something that we feel like is freeing our mind, or we have an aha moment. So throughout the live today, if you have something that Elizabeth shares that is really valuable to you, or a new idea or a nugget that you want to hold on to, I want you to type in the comments hashtag Free Friday, and then share the tip that you're going to implement in your own life. Yes. I know Elizabeth, all speech paths are like lifelong learners. So I know you're like, yes, yeah. I like that.
I love it.
Yeah. So let's dig in here, because we want to dig into some goodness here. And so I noticed that, Elizabeth, on your website, you said that you are a mother, a sister, and a cousin of those who have developmental disorders and or learning differences. So can you tell me a little bit about how being so involved in lives of those with developmental or those who learn differently, how those made you who you are today, or in the work that you're doing today?
Yeah, absolutely. So it started at birth, really, because my sister is 2 years older than I am. And that my parents started noticing that something was going on with her actually when I was developing faster than she was. So she was delayed in speech and language. And then when they had an overall assessment, it was global delays. So it's called developmental delays. And she was in special ed throughout my whole life, in the portables, and big glasses with an eye patch and everything. So lots of teasing, and I had to build resiliency around that and sit in a lot of waiting rooms. We had kind of like an OT, occupational therapy equipment in our basement, and that was a lot of fun, actually. But I learned a lot about developmental needs, and the stress that impacts on a family growing up. So that was just kind of part of my life. And then I have a very small family, actually. I only have two cousins. And my oldest cousin, she was the first one to have a child, and her son was delayed in language and social as well. And that was after I had gone through, I went to college, and I thought I was going to be a teacher or a nurse. I wanted to be in the helping profession. But then I learned about the field of speech pathology, and I got really intrigued. And so I dove into that and got my degree in communicative disorders and sciences, which is the degree for speech and language pathology. And it was just so familiar to me because of all that I had known about growing up with my sister. And I just wanted to, in the field, as you know, we can work both in the schools and the hospitals, and there's just such a variety of things that we can do. It's one of the most amazing fields. I'm happy to be here for awareness for Better Hearing and Speech Month. But so I was already in the field and doing this type of work when my cousin's son was born, and I kind of helped him with her get the diagnosis for autism. And so watched him grow, and he came to our center at Communication Works to be in social groups and whatnot. And then I had my first son. I have two sons now. One's 16 and one's 13. And my oldest son, around the age of well, I guess it was when he went to kindergarten. But then, I was noticing things were happening that were a little bit different than other children in kindergarten and first and second, but especially third grade, where it shifts from like, learning to read versus reading
Right.
to learn. And he was really struggling to attend and focus and with all of his executive functioning. And so, he was that kid who got his name on the board all the time and benched for recess, which don't get me started on that because these are the kids that should not be benched for recess.
Right.
And
And which
so
is what they need too. More of.
100%, yes. And so we started the, curiosity journey, or as as a therapist as well, and had some of my colleagues observe him, and then fully got him diagnosed with learning disabilities, and ADHD, and actually anxiety too. So it was a journey for sure to get the educators to see what I saw, because he's extremely bright and charismatic and fun and an amazing kid. And he struggles in some ways. And so that was hard for the rest of the world to see that, and, realize that his class clown behavior was actually anxiety and diverting from his attention issues. So it's been a journey for sure, and not an easy one. I actually just had somebody kind of help me write my story, and it was just like, wow, that was a lot. It's a lot. But it just
Well,
makes me more passionate about doing this work for other families as well.
yeah, absolutely. I can see how when it hits home for you, it just makes it even more of a life mission. Yeah, it becomes more than
100.
just a career or something that you enjoy. It becomes, more of your life's work and your life's mission to help other families. Because I can only imagine someone without your background who had a son who was dealing with some of those struggles and maybe didn't know how to look for those things, or um, found themselves just frustrated with the whole situation, with how their son was struggling and not really sure what to do or where to start. Right.
Absolutely. I mean, that happens all the time. And frankly, if I didn't have the experience of growing up with a sister and knowing, understanding that there is support out there for people who learn differently or have different social needs, or academics, whatever it might be, he wouldn't have gotten diagnosed, and not. He's nuanced based, so he would have been that kid that's just kind of labeled as annoying or unmotivated or non-compliant in some ways. And it would have affected his self-esteem a lot more. He actually is very proud to, he would probably wear a shirt that says I have ADHD. And he was on a Facebook Live with me the other day, and he's free to talk about, like how things that work for him and don't work for him. And we were talking about mindfulness a little bit in our schedules that we've recreated. And he said, oh yeah, my therapist taught me how to do this a little bit. And it's just, he's really come into his own, into
Mm-hmm.
that it's okay. And everybody's
Yeah.
different in the way that they access curriculum and academics and social and the world. And that's fine. It's neurodiversity, and we need to embrace that.
Yes.
But then also support where is needed, because we call,
Yes.
those additional needs, right? The kids that need a little
Yes.
bit more
Yes.
nurturing.
Oh my gosh. Is anybody having like some nuggets that they're gleaning from Elizabeth right now? I feel like hashtag Free Friday all over the place, because I love that term that you describe as neurodiversity, that we need to embrace that. And in fact, Elizabeth calls herself a momathist, a mom and a therapist, because us as moms who are also therapists, we can't turn that off, right?
So
And
it's so hard.
especially if our own child is struggling with some of the areas that we actually help treat. So so I love that you shared with that. Yeah, Nancy said this is about communication, which is so important. Yes, yeah, thank you for sharing that, Nancy. And so let me see. Let's kind of shift gears just a little bit and talk about seeing these differences from these different perspectives, how they played into the way that you approach this social learning.
Yeah. So I became very interested in social emotional learning actually when I was in grad school. I was back in the 90s, and one of my professors actually, Dr. Novak at San Francisco State. She was when I was there. She's I always call out her name because she's the one who really got me interested in autism and behavior and actually the field in general, but especially autism. And so I was in her class and she said, "Does anybody want to take on a client? I think this child might have autism." This is when it was just kind of newly talked about, and I raised my hand. I was so excited, and I learned all about it, and then in grad school I did a deeper dive, and then in after grad school I worked at a school for severely impaired children with autism and behaviors. And so I worked alongside behavior consultants, and we view as speech pathologists that behavior is communication, and that any kind of behavior, whether, I'm using my hands right now, that's behavior. I'm expressing myself with my hands, and you can hear the tone of voice. But it also can be behavior like crying or whining or having, a tantrum, or big, elated behavior. That's all communication. And when children are delayed in their ability to express themselves, or people are delayed in their ability to express themselves, then they might have maladaptive behavior to express their wants and needs. And so what we did at that school is we worked together collaboratively with the behavior consultants to develop plans to be able to support their communication needs to decrease their negative behaviors. And so I learned a lot there. And then I got really excited about the work of Michelle Garcia Winner, who's another speech and language pathologist. She's actually local here in California, in San Jose. And she has really done a huge innovative and eye-opening curriculum and resource and framework for teaching kids that have challenges with perspective taking. And she calls it social thinking. And basically, it's the nuance base of being able to step into somebody's shoes and realize that they have thoughts that are different than yours. And so I learned a lot about that work. It's different than teaching social skills, because social skills are just like the eye contact and the handshakes and the high fives. But you can teach those skills all you want in therapy, but if you don't teach the thinking behind those skills, the whys, then you're not going to know how to generalize that out into all different kinds of environments, and know that it's fine to give your friends a high five and to sit on your parents' lap, but maybe you wouldn't do that with your principal. So it's all those nuances about knowing what social skills to use in various situations, all the hidden rules, all the code switching that's involved. And so I got really intrigued with Michelle Garcia Winner's work, and then that's how I started doing some private groups of social skills groups and social thinking groups, and opened a private center of multidisciplinary team, OTs, speech pathologists, and educational therapists. And that was the Center at Communication Works in Oakland. And it was like my first child, actually, before I had children. I just loved it so much. And that's how I got interested in it. And then, I was so lucky to have a private center where kids are coming after school. The parents would come too. And you can't just teach the kids. You can't just put this on the shoulders of the kids. They're not going to say like, "Oh yeah, that's right. That's how you think about others. That's how I regulate my behaviors. I think I'll be calm now at dinner and have a conversation with my family." It
Right.
really has to be more of a holistic, whole family, whole child approach. And so that's how I got super involved and passionate about helping families just like me.
Yes, yes. Oh my goodness. I love this because the field of speech language pathology is so wide and so diverse. And those who may be watching, who maybe you have limited experience with a speech language pathologist, you may be opening your eyes to some new areas that you haven't thought about before, maybe your exposure, because I love that you're able to kind of focus in on this area that's not only impacted your own life, but also make that an area of specialty, so to speak, that you can really hone in. So I'm curious, what are some examples of some social learning that parents could help their children learn to navigate? Or maybe you want to talk a little bit about your book here, or I
Sure.
see it there in the background. I love it.
Oh yeah, there.
Yeah.
I'll pull it out. It's right here actually too. with all my tabs of things that I teach. Make social learning stick is become a passion of mine. I wrote it when I was at the center supporting parents because they were asking for blogs, they were asking for what to do at home, and so I realized that I needed to get it all compiled together to share outside of the center as well. And so basically what we do is we talk about the book is actually divided into home, community, and holidays as special events. And fun fact, I'm working on the second edition that has a
Oh,
section on it about bridging home and school together, because that's another piece, right? Obviously, we have to work
yes.
together with
Yeah.
educators. Um, and so it's just, I try to make it very, very simple about like little things that can be done without having to go to parents having to go to conferences or read all the curriculum out there, because there's so much and it can be super overwhelming. And in our course, we talk about getting out of the Google rabbit hole for parents and helping them do that.
Oh,
Yeah, it can be overwhelming when you're in that curiosity wondering stage about what's going on, and even all along the way. But so simple things like priming your child for being able to know what's coming ahead. We forget about that, right? So maybe you have to go run an errand on the way home and you forget to tell them that, and they were in their head thinking that they were going to get to go home and relax and oops, are you still there?
I'm still here. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Your picture is gone, so I thought something happened. But as long as you're still there, I'm still there. We're all good. Um, and so, like, the kids have a different thing in mind about what they want to do, and you're stopping, and the child's like, "What are you doing? I wanted to go home and unpack my latest game Legos that I was going to play." And they have a big tantrum, and you didn't prime them for where you were going, which is a simple little thing to do in the car on the way there. Or other little simple things to build social referencing or awareness. So, like, how many times, especially now that we're sharing such close space with our families every day, they come and they say, "What's for dinner?" And instead of saying, "Oh, we're going to have spaghetti and a salad," you can just say, like, I don't know. What do you think? Look around, make a guess. And that's when they can do that inferencing to become a little bit more aware of what's going on with in their environment with a simple thing like dinner. But that's not so simple when they're at the playground able to interact with their other peers again, or even at home when they're needing to figure out what's going on in that environment. And social is happening in milliseconds. They're managing their own emotions to regulate for the situation, and they're figuring out what's going on in the situation at hand, but also all the people around them. And they have to infer what's going on and then figure out which social skills to use. So that's the social thinking. What's going on? How are people feeling? How am I feeling? How's my behavior going to affect this situation? And then the skills to use, which is more pragmatic language, the use of language. What do we do in that situation? Should I go over there and bring my body closer to the people so I can let them know that I'm interested in them? Do I give a high five? Do I say what's up? What do you do in those situations? And there's just so many little things that you can do as parents to help your child in these ways.
I love that. Well, so let me ask you: would you say that that a parent would be able to grab your book and be able to implement some of these things if they especially wanted to enhance these in their own home? Would this be something that they could implement without necessarily a speech language pathologist who they're seeing on a daily basis? How would that work?
Well, yeah, so the field of speech and language pathology is so vast, as I stutter on saying speech and language pathology. It's so vast, and I wouldn't ever say, like, you don't need to go see a speech pathologist, because they have such value in what we do. And so there's lots of coaching and consulting and support and actually direct therapy that can happen. So there's a lot that we can do to support parents at home. And I feel like that's oftentimes the missing piece, is like, teaching parents what to do outside of the therapy room. So by all means, consult with a speech and language pathologist, especially if you're not quite sure what's going on with your child. But then again, there's things that you can do to augment. We call it an add-on, or not an add-on, more of an add-in to your daily life, so it doesn't feel overwhelming. So once you have an idea of what's going on with your child and maybe the specific needs of where they need support, those lagging skills that might be causing some of those behaviors, then you can hone in on where to really focus. But there are a lot of things that you can do as a parent, and my book does give some practical suggestions and ideas and inspire you too to think about creative ways that you can engage with your children, at bedtime or during dinner or playing games, whatever it might be, to build those social, emotional, and executive function skills as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm even thinking that this could be powerful even for those kids who don't have those additional needs.
100%.
You just want to enhance those skills in your kids and in your family. But I will say, so Elizabeth hasn't shared this yet, but there's some exciting things also that will be available to you that are coming online that complement this book. And would you say it's a little bit like bringing a speech pathologist into your home?
I would in some ways, and I have to say that it's you can have us in your back pocket a little bit when it comes to social emotional learning. And I do have to introduce. I feel like I'm like announcing a baby here, but this is taken
Yeah,
way over. This is taken over
yeah,
way
yes.
way more than 9 months to put together. And it's kind of like my life's work, both professionally and personally, in this course. And I've collaborated with a school psychologist that I highly recommend and admire, is Rebecca Brandstetter. She's somebody that I found along the journey to help me with my son's needs in terms of executive function. She's an expert in executive function, and she has a couple of different books on conscious parenting for ADHD and executive functioning, and the Everything book for executive functioning. And she and I partnered together, and we've developed a course for parents to support in everyday routines and activities. And it's called Make It Stick Parenting. And it's based on 10 brain-based, practical strategies to implement into your everyday life. It's a system, so we take you on a pathway from a bottom-up approach with a model that we call the WISE model.
And yeah, you were telling me a little bit about some of those that also involve some self-care things too, right?
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
so needed right now. And then do you want to share with everybody about the free webinar that will be available as well?
Yes, so we've been doing a lot of free sharing of things throughout well, I've been doing it for 10 years now. I didn't even think about having a course back then, but I've been blogging about my experience with my son and sharing information for about 10 years. And then we've really ramped it up over the last 6 months or so to a year to share content. And especially over this time of distance learning and quarantine, we released, before we were quarantined, actually, a couple of videos from our course and some free PDFs. So those are on the website. And I've been doing this calendar that you mentioned too. So I'm going to try to keep that up. We'll see. Yep. That's the Mindful May calendar. And there was an April one too. I'm hoping to do more. But Rebecca and I have been polling our audience to see what they need right now. What's going on at home and what are some of their pain points right now, because we wanted to give a free training. And so we, after surveying everybody and finding out what they need, we discovered that they need to know kind of what to do right now to create an environment to support their kids' social emotional needs. They need to know what to say. We all, so we don't snap at our children or yell at them. And, so we've developed some scripts that are available for you as well. And then also some social emotional tips having to do with building awareness through mindfulness, because if you can have that ability to pause, then you can have the ability to see what's going on, assess how you're feeling, and then figure out how to interact. So all of those free PDFs are in a kit called the Survival Kit for social emotional learning during social distancing. And those are within the webinar that's now at the ready. So if you go to Make Social Learning Stick and Make It Stick Parenting under the Parenting tab, then you can go to find the free webinar. And then after you watch the webinar, you can learn a little bit more about the course and download the Survival Kit at the ready.
Ah, yay. So let me see if I've got this right so I can share this with everybody. Let's see. MakeSocialLearningStick.com.
Yep. And then if you go underneath the tab for parents, and then there should be the information there about being able to watch the webinar and the free training and to get that survival kit that I mentioned to you. And then there's information about the course that is available as well. So, and it's going to be a course and a community. Rebecca and I are going to be able to be available. One of the bonuses is a free kickoff call, which is being able to, one of the hardest things about a course is getting started, right? So having us be there, and there's a journal and accountability. And so that's part of it. And then there's also a deeper dive if parents want more access to us. For being able to be available for them for 60 days for training calls. And that information is on there as well. But we're really excited. This is something that I've wanted to do for so long. And we just, we were going to wait till after, quarantine was over, and be together to record the videos and whatnot. And we've just made it work. And we've been working, I've been in this office, my husband says, since March 16th to pivot, as you say, and bring this to the families in need, because it's needed now. It's been needed for a long time, but it's needed now more than ever.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that pivot that's happened, because we've all had to do that. We've all had to kind of reassess and reevaluate things. Or if we haven't, we probably need to, right? We need to look at what we're doing in our work, in our life. And so many people that I keep talking with are doing that. They're really making some big shifts in their lives right now. Talking to people who are jumping on board of full-time traveling like we are, craziness, and families that are realizing that their school's not starting back, and that they have more flexibility at home. And so they're like, why not we just travel some? And, and therapists who are having to shift to teletherapy when they've never done that before, maybe just in limited amounts. And so tell me a little bit about what you've had to do through all of this.
Yes. And I can't wait to hear more about your travels too, because that, RV, we took an RV trip one time, and that was so fun. So we've actually been thinking about it. So it's just fascinating. Look at how you're making it work too. But there's been quite a few changes. So I mentioned earlier that I am part of an organization, a founder of Communication Works, which is a group of speech and language pathologists, and we serve the San Francisco Bay Area and also Southern California as well for school-based contracts. And it's a big part of my mission too, is to be involved in the education and system and speech therapy in schools. And that whole company, obviously changed. We had to pivot, and it was very scary for a bit there, figuring out what was going to happen. And we have a huge mission. We're a small organization, and we want to stay that way because we, really support our speech therapists, and we're like a family together, and wanted to make sure that they were taken care of. And so we had to figure out how to get the distance learning going and the telepractice, and make sure that they had what they needed and were supported. So we've been running wellness retreats online for them, and really working so hard to make sure that all of that was stable and that they could transition with what was needed, because these kids still have services that we need to provide. And so what was that going to look like, and how we were going to partner with the districts and our therapists to change. So that's been huge. And I work with my husband, and my business partner, Hillary, and Audra Elliott is another amazing speech therapist. And taken a team to make this shift work. And I'm really grateful for everybody's hard work, because it's fine. It's great. And everybody's just been such team players in making it happen, as they're doing distance learning, on Zoom, and they have their own kids crawling on their back. So that's been a huge change, and I've been involved with that a little bit too. We actually had a full day conference with Sarah Ward, as a speech and language pathologist, and we have her come out sometimes. She helped a lot with my son. She teaches executive functioning. And we had a full day conference that was scheduled May 2nd, and we had to put that online. So there's all these pivots that have happened, and there's been some silver linings there. And then my big pivot has been just with realizing how much more parents are overwhelmed now than ever. And, with Rebecca, we partnered again to just say, let's do it. Let's not wait. Let's figure this out. Everything is figure outable, right? And,
Right.
um, and we just, in our own offices, she calls it her girl office because she's coming at you from the car. If you watch the videos with her, she's in her car because she had girls and she just didn't want to wait, and got it out there and did this free webinar for what's needed right now. As parents are just overwhelmed and kids are overwhelmed, we're on top of each other with no breaks. And so that's been my big pivot, is just to spend those extra hours here. My family's been super accepting and supportive for, what was needed during this time. And we're just celebrating that it's out there to the world, and hopefully it'll benefit a lot of people, because that's our goal. It's really my passion and
Yeah.
goal.
I love that. Thank you for sharing all of that. So before we get going here, what would be your best advice or tip that you would share with somebody who's wondering how to change the way they do business during these strange times? What would you say to someone?
I think that the thing that's always guided me in life in general, but especially in business, is to dig deep and figure out what really brings you purpose and meaning, and what lights you up. Like, what are the things that make you feel like you're in flow? Rebecca and I talk a lot about, this is like my last 2 days of working like 14-hour days to get things ready for the launch. But like, working within your zone of genius. So there's like a bottom level of zones of incompetence, which for me is like technology and honestly a bit of writing. I have to do a lot of it, but I have a harder time like getting it on paper than just talking. And so like, and then my zone, I feel like, of genius is like relationships with people and helping. I'm an Enneagram too, if anybody knows an Enneagram. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yep. So I'm like helping, and it's just like, I love it. I'm just called to it. It's just what I want to do. And I really want to help parents who have gone through struggles like myself. And I know what it's like as a sibling. So it's my whole life. And now as a parent. And so I just feel like I have a lot to offer in that way. And as a speech and language pathologist with a passion of social emotional learning. So I say, just follow where your passion is and your zone of genius, and then find help and support where you're having that I call it getting paralyzed, or being in that. I teach the zones of regulation too, which is another curriculum by Leah Kuypers. But that red zone, yellow zone areas, you can't live there for too long. So you got to get support for the things that paralyze you, like technology for me, and and some
Right.
of other pieces that make you want to, achieve your goals, but feel overwhelming.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Jim says, what can I do for you? Yes,
Oh,
that's right.
are you a tech person, or are you a copy editor? I'll take any kind of help. Please email me.
Yes, yes. Well, so you can find Elizabeth, like she mentioned, at make social
Makes
learning stick. Yes.com.
Yeah.
She has a ton of resources there, like she mentioned on her blog. She's got topics that I saw there. Just some of the topics I saw was parenting with a growth mindset, which I was like, I'm all about. We've been diving into that more and more over the last couple of years. She talks about something that I kind of perked my eyes, was 5 ways to build speech, language, and social skills while on the road.
Yep.
She
Yeah.
talks about, yeah, she talks about kids and screen time during COVID, and then she's got tons of other resources. So check her out there. Of course, um, shouting out this word social learning will also get you access to the free webinar that she mentioned, and also you can get access to find out more about the course that is being launched and all the goodness. So I'm so glad that you came on today with us, Elizabeth. I know I want to ask you guys, which one of these aha moments are you putting into action today for your
Yes.
family? Because we want to cheer you on and celebrate moving forward. I feel like as speech pathologists, we all want to cheer other people on who develop into moving forward in some way. So now I'm about to sign off. Thank you so much. You guys share some love with Elizabeth. Thank you for joining us today, Elizabeth. And I'm about to sign off here, but I want to share something really quickly. Oh, here we go. I just want to share really briefly here that our next live wellness masterclass is going to be June 5th. Actually, oh yeah, this says the wrong date here. Let me fix that. June 5th is going to be our next wellness masterclass. So you can put that on your calendar. And if you want to, actually, let me share with you a little bit about what we're going to be talking about this time. I'm going to be teaching all about our SPARK method and how it can calm the crazy in your mind, help you overcome burnout and return to joy so that you can enhance the impact that you're already making. And these are complimentary master classes, but it's when we dive into some of the real juicy stuff. We're actually going to be helping you find that superpower or zone of genius that Elizabeth was talking about. And so if you'll just type in the comments masterclass, I'll make sure that you get information on that. I really love being here with you guys, helping your families simplify your life with just 3 life essentials. You all are worth the investment. If you want to be reminded of next week's Free Friday, just type in the comments, remind me or reminder, and we'll get you that information because we're going to be highlighting speech-language pathologists for the rest of the month. So make sure and join us next week, and we'll see you guys back here next week. Okay, bye everybody.
Bye-bye.